someone just disrespected you. Maybe it was in front of people. Maybe it was quiet, a tone, a dismissal, a look that said, "You don't matter." Maybe it was someone you trusted. And right now, every cell in your body is telling you to react, to defend yourself, to make sure they know they can't do that to you. Here's what I need you to hear before you do anything. That instinct, as natural as it feels, is exactly what they're counting on. And the moment you follow it, you hand them something most people don't even realize they're giving away. We're going to talk about what that is, what psychology actually says about disrespect, why your brain reacts the way it does, and what the most quietly powerful people do instead. Because it's not what anyone teaches you. Stay with me. This one's going to shift something. Think about the last time someone truly disrespected you. A coworker who talked over you in a meeting like your words meant nothing. A partner who dismissed your feelings with a sigh and a rolled eye. A family member who made a cutting comment and then laughed it off like you were the problem for not finding it funny. Or maybe it was smaller than that. A friend who canceled on you, again. Someone who replied to your message with one word after you poured yourself into 3 paragraphs. A stranger who treated you like you were invisible. It doesn't matter how big or small it was. The feeling is the same. That hot rush in your chest. The tightening in your jaw. The mental replay that starts immediately. Going over what happened, what you should have said, what you wish you'd said. And most of us do one of 2 things in that moment. We either explode, we react, we snap back, we defend ourselves loudly, we make sure they know we're not okay with it. Or we collapse inward, we go quiet, we absorb it, we smile when we don't mean it, we replay it alone at 2 a.m. and feel small. Both of these responses feel completely human. Both make sense. And both, according to psychologists, work against you in ways that are worth understanding. So let's break this down. Here's something most people don't know. Your brain cannot fully distinguish between physical pain and social pain. When someone disrespects you, especially in public, especially by someone whose opinion matters to you, the same regions of the brain activate as when you're physically hurt. Researchers at UCLA found this in a study using brain scans. Social rejection and physical pain light up overlapping neural pathways, which means when someone dismisses you, your nervous system isn't deemed dramatic. It genuinely registers it as a threat. So the first thing to understand is this. Your reaction to disrespect is not weakness, it's biology. Your brain fires a stress response. Cortisol and adrenaline flood your system. Your thinking gets narrower, your focus locks onto the threat, and your impulse is to either fight it or flee from it. This is important, because once you understand that your reaction is biological, you stop judging yourself for having it. And once you stop judging yourself, you get a split second of space, and in that space is where your power lives. Let's talk about the biggest mistake people make when they're disrespected. And it's not what you think. It's not yelling, it's not crying. It's not even silence. It's explaining yourself. When someone disrespects you, the natural urge is to make them understand, to lay out your case. To say, here's why what you did was wrong. Here's how it made me feel. Here's why I deserve better. And it feels productive. It feels mature. It feels like communication. But here's the psychological reality. When someone disrespects you deliberately, and most of the time it is deliberate, even if it's subtle, they already know what they're doing. Explaining yourself to them doesn't educate them. It signals to them that their behavior has power over your emotional state. And for a certain kind of person, that's exactly the information they wanted. Dr. Ramani Durvasula, one of the leading psychologists on narcissistic behavior, puts it plainly. Over-explaining yourself to someone who disrespects you is a form of seeking validation from the person least likely to give it. And every time you do it, you train yourself to need their approval. You are not a lawyer. You don't need to build a case for your own dignity. The second thing you should never do is match their energy in public. Raising your voice, getting visibly flustered, throwing the same dismissal back at them. This feels like justice, but it rarely lands that way. To anyone watching, it looks like a loss of control. And to the person who disrespected you, it looks like a win. Your reaction is the real moment of power, not theirs. So if you don't explain and you don't explode, what do? You regulate first, then you respond. This sounds simple. It is not easy, but here's what it looks like in practice. The moment you feel that heat rise in your chest, that's your signal, not to act, to pause. Psychologists call this a pattern interrupt. You're breaking the automatic chain from trigger to reaction by inserting a moment of conscious choice. In that moment, some people take a breath. Some people repeat a neutral phrase internally. I see what's happening here. Some people simply go quiet for 3 seconds before they speak. All of them are a form of emotional regulation that keeps your nervous system from running the show. Then, from that regulated place, you respond, not react. And the response doesn't need to be much. A calm, even, I'm not going to engage with that, carries 10 times more weight than a 5-minute explanation. It communicates that you saw it. You're not rattled by it, and you're not available for it. No heat, no desperation. Just a quiet, clear line. Psychologist and researcher Brené Brown talks about this as the difference between fitting in and belonging. When you over-justify yourself to someone who disrespects you, you're performing for their acceptance. When you simply hold your ground with calm, you're embodying a self-worth that doesn't need their verdict. And that is an entirely different energy. People feel it, including the person who disrespected you. Now here's the part of this conversation that most videos skip. Sometimes the disrespect you experience isn't from a toxic stranger or a manipulative coworker. Sometimes it comes from someone you love, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the way someone speaks to you is tied to something breaking down between you both. Not an excuse, not permission, but context. Psychology tells us that people who feel chronically unheard will sometimes escalate into dismissiveness or contempt as a way of being felt. This is especially true in long-term relationships. It doesn't make it okay, but understanding it changes how you respond. There's also something harder to hear. If disrespect is a pattern in your life from multiple people across different relationships, psychology says it's worth asking whether there's a dynamic you're unconsciously reinforcing. Whether the ways you respond to disrespect early on are signaling that it's something you'll absorb. Because the most powerful thing you can do is not just learn how to respond in the moment. It's to understand the full picture of why these dynamics show up and change them at the root. So here's what this actually looks like as a practice. Not just in one moment, but over time. First, raise your threshold for what you tolerate, not by becoming cold or closed, but by getting very clear, for yourself, on what's acceptable and what isn't. Write it down if you have to. When the lines are clear internally, you stop second-guessing yourself externally. Second, respond to disrespect with boundaries, not battles. A boundary isn't, I'm going to make you understand. A boundary is, I won't continue this conversation while it's happening this way. And then following through. The follow-through is everything. Protect your energy, not just your ego. Not every disrespect needs a response. Some people are carrying so much that their behavior has almost nothing to do with you. Learning to identify the difference between something worth addressing and something worth releasing is a genuine skill, and it gets sharper with practice. Fourth, watch what you do after. How you talk to yourself about the incident matters as much as what happened. If you spend hours in self-critical replay, why didn't I say something? Why do I always freeze? You extend the damage. Speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you care about, who just went through something hard. Here's the truth about all of this. The most powerful people you've ever met, the ones who seem completely unbothered, the ones who carry themselves in a way that makes people think twice before trying anything, they're not that way because nothing affects them. They're that way because they've done this work. They've learned the difference between reacting and responding. They've practiced the pause enough times that it's become reflex. And the quiet you'll find on the other side of this, not the silence of someone suppressing their feelings, but the quiet of someone who genuinely knows their worth. That is one of the most powerful places you can operate from. You don't need to be louder than the people who disrespect you. You just need to be more grounded. That's the whole thing. If this landed for you, there's more where this came from. We go deep here on the psychology of how people treat you, how you treat yourself, and the mental shifts that actually change things. You'll know after the next one if this is your kind of channel.